Alrighty. Yeah, so as I said, we're speaking to Nette France and Ali Barter today. Maybe Nette, do you want to just maybe give a brief introduction to yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Billy. My name's Nette. I'm from Canberra, and I'm in a local sort of indie rock band called Sputnik Sweetheart. We started probably about 3 years ago now, but have been writing songs ever since I was probably first picked up a guitar when I was around 13. And yeah, just really, I guess the last 3 to 4 years of playing music and touring and stuff has kind of opened my eyes to what it's like to be a musician in Australia and at this age. So yeah, really happy to be here and looking forward to talking with you all.
Perfect. And then Ali, do you want to give a brief introduction to yourself as well?
Yes, thanks, Billy. Hi, I'm Ali Barter. I am a singer-songwriter and touring musician. I've been putting out music since 2012. I've put out 4 EPs and 2 full-length albums. I write for other people. I write for ads. Did a lot of touring. Feels like a long time ago. But yeah, I started writing songs a bit later. I started when I was about 24. So I have came to it late and threw everything I had at it, and I've been doing it for the past 10 years. So yeah.
Amazing. So how would you guys, given that you guys have a little bit of different experience, how would you describe, I suppose, the music that you write? And I know, Ali, you just said that you write for all different kinds of people and for advertising as well. How do you think, maybe starting with Nette, could you describe like the music that you write and maybe how that comes out and where that comes from?
Sure. So I guess I started off also just sort of singer-songwriter style. I guess a little bit more folk when I was first, because I went to folk festivals a lot when I was a kid, and then I kind of took a little break from it, I guess, in high school, and then I started listening to artists like Wolf Alice and Fontaines DC and Idols and kind of a bit more heavy psych rock stuff, and I really got into that. And so really Sputnik Sweetheart's my first actual musical project. I know that a lot of artists kind of go through lots of different projects, but this is my first one. And the sound is sort of, it's an indie rock band, but we are still, I think, having only been together for about, 3 to 4 years, I still feel like we're very much exploring our sound and as the primary songwriter in the band, I'm still working on how ideas that I have for a particular song might take form with a group, because it's quite a collaborative process, I guess in terms of like parts and stuff that we're writing. But it's just classic sort of indie psych rock stuff.
And how does that compare with you, Ali? I was going to ask you about, how would you describe the music that you write, but it sounds like you write a lot of different kinds of music. So, how do you, maybe a better question for that is, how do you approach those kind of songwriting sessions that aren't just about the things that Nette were talking about, where it's all internal and you're figuring out your own stuff? How does it compare between that stuff and the stuff that you do for other people as well?
Well, it depends. Like sometimes I write to a brief. Like in co-writing sessions, we would write, say for an ad or for an artist, they come in, they're like, I want to write a song like this, and then that's very structured. And or if I'm writing with another artist, we usually have a conversation in the beginning, and we start with some words that they have floating around and some references that they like, and we sort of build ideas from there. And then for me, I just have a constant, I write a lot. Maybe not the last 2 years, if I'm totally honest, but before COVID, I wrote a lot. Like the first year I started writing songs, when I was about 26, I was like, I'm going to write a song every week. And because I felt like I was older and I had to hurry up and get some experience. So I just wrote a lot. And what happens if you write a lot is that you have a lot of songs and some of them aren't for you. So it was like, you know, like Nette said, like writing and figuring out who you are as an artist. Like if you write a lot of songs, it's also about going, okay, so who am I in these songs? And then the more you write, the more you appear. But if you are prolific, then you need to have outlets for other songs, which is why I'm grateful that I have a publisher and I can write for other people, because I put out a lot of music and it's not all for me. So it doesn't need to be either.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because you start talking about process and how it seems as though like sometimes you do have that really strict brief where you're in a co-writing session, but like you said, you know, maybe before these last 2 years that you would write a lot anyway. So maybe a great question from there is like, what does that process look like for you when you're not sure of what the song's going to be yet? You know, when you're not in that, I suppose, strict environment of a co-writing session, what is your usual process like?
Well, even if I'm not in a co-writing session, my goal in any songwriting session is just to write a song. So even if I am with an artist, like I think that sometimes you can get if you get too hemmed into creating something, like if you ever say those words that doom any songwriting session, like let's write a banger, you never write a banger. So just go in, and my outcome is always like, let's just write a song. If it's for you, artist in the room, then great. If it's for me, whatever, but let's just make a song. And because in my personal experience, it's, you know, collaborating and making something happen is all about like tapping into something else, and whatever happens. And that's why my attitude is to write a lot, to get, because you're not always going to write a good song, so your odds are better.
True.
The odds are better.
You got more spins of the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. How does that compare with your experience, Nette? What's your writing process like nowadays? Maybe how it's changed?
Well, I'm definitely going to have to take some tips from you, Ali, because I feel like in my experience, at least the first time when we first started the band, I didn't really have this sort of self-belief that I could do it. It wasn't something like, you know, it's kind of daunting. I'm sure maybe people on this call can probably resonate that when you're not in the music industry, it feels kind of like a bit of a black box. Like, that looks really cool, I'd love to be part of that. But I'm not really sure how to start or where to start. And I definitely had that. So then when I eventually found, Joe, who's another band member, and we were collaborating a lot, and I kind of got this sense of like, wow, we're really doing it. I was kind of like, everything's amazing. Like, we wrote one song, like, let's go record it. And then looking back, they're not necessarily the best songs. So, I mean, I'm glad that we did it, and it's definitely, but I think, yeah, to your point, Ali, writing a lot, it's almost like creatively, I think it's like a muscle that you need to exercise. It's like and kind of a bit like a puzzle. Sometimes I'll write a song and I'll be like, this verse is really, I think this verse is like, I really like it. And then this chorus, it's not quite hitting. It's like, I'm not quite feeling it. And sometimes I just have to abandon it for, weeks or even months, and then come back and try a completely new thing. And then it just eventually clicks. So I haven't limited myself, I guess, too much in time with time pressures around particular songs. Sometimes it feels like they just write themselves, and sometimes it's like a grind to get to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that's
absolutely. I've got a couple of more questions left on over here that I'd love to ask you guys, but also to everyone else in this Zoom call. If you do have questions for Nette or Ali, like please chime in or raise your hand whenever you like, or just send your question through the chat and we'll absolutely get to it. So while you guys are all thinking about that, I'll ask another question. You both talked about like being really productive in those answers. Like Ali, you're talking about writing a song a week and like really getting into that space, and it was the same with you, Nette, just like trying to push forward and just write something, and then if you have to abandon it, come back to it, then like that's just the way it is. What happens like in your world? Like, do you guys experience writer's block very much? to that end? Like if you kind of do have that really heavy production, I need to produce something all the time. How does that gel with writer's block? Maybe you, Nettie, first.
Yeah, I've definitely had writer's block. But I actually, interestingly, one of the ways that I've kind of overcome it subconsciously is trying to learn a cover of another song from an artist that I wouldn't usually play. Because I'm learning new chord shapes. I'm singing, melodies a little bit differently. And sometimes that's just the key to kind of unlocking something, a different chord shape or a different, sort of lyrical, prowess, I guess. And so that's also just listening. If you're not, sometimes it's like, I'm not really sure. I feel like I'm just repeating the type of songs. I'm just writing the same stuff, but like a slightly different version. I'll just go out and just listen to as much, of a particular artist and just try to understand their catalog. Or sometimes it's a completely different genre. I'm just like, I just need to clear my head. So that's generally what I do. It's not so much a structured way, but I think those two things I've found helpful.
What about you, Ali? How do you get over something like that?
Yeah, I really like those two. I will learn covers now. Thank you, Nettie, for that. But I definitely have artists that as soon as I listen to them, my head starts filling up with words and I go places. And they're like artists that I don't sound like. Like every time I listen to Lana Del Rey, I want to write a damn song, okay? And so I do that. Also, I feel like, and maybe when I was talking about writing lots of songs, I made it sound like it was really easy, but writing songs is really uncomfortable and can be really painful and really make you feel really yuck. Like Nettie said, you work on something and then me personally, like I'll work on something, I'll be like, this is great. And then 20 minutes later, I'll be like, this is the worst thing I've ever heard. And so I go, I quit. And then I put it away and I come back and I go, it's actually fine. So writer's block for me is usually, and where I am personally right now, is that I'm not willing to sit in that uncomfortability. I'm not willing to pick up my guitar and feel awkward and hack out something that is not perfect. And in that case, what I need to do is show up every day to my guitar. It's like going to the gym, like a muscle, like Nettie said, like just pick up my guitar, bang out whatever's on my mind and then put it down and then go on with my day. And I know that once I start getting into that habit, things will start to flow again. So I think it's all about showing up sometimes and accepting that it's clunky and uncomfortable sometimes to write a song, most of the time for me.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a process, right? And there's pain involved sometimes. So that's just what it is. It's just the process. Speaking, I hate to pull out of like a really beautiful moment about how important it is to keep trying, but getting back into the process a little bit is when you guys, where does it start for you guys? Are you usually, when you've decided to show up for your day of work being a musician, does that start in front of something like a DAW, like GarageBand or Logic or Pro Tools or one of those? And are you writing, I suppose, into a system like that? Or are you sitting down somewhere calm and relaxing with a notepad? Where does it usually like start for you guys? Maybe Ali first.
Yeah, I always start with a guitar and I play some chords and I have my phone and I make a melody, and then I either words will appear like in the gibberish that I'm singing, or I'll dig out my phone, some notes in my phone and build a song from there. I don't record into any production equipment. I have no microphones. I don't plug in my guitar. That is all barriers for me. Like I've tried that in the past. I used to mess around with Logic, and then when I realized that I had to pick a snare sound, I was like, there's so many fucking snare sounds, sorry for swearing. I will be here all day and not write a song. So I realized that's not what I am. I'm not a producer, I'm not interested. I record it into my phone and then I find someone that I can either finish the song with or a producer. Luckily I'm married to one, and we make a song.
Sure.
But
Wow.
I play to my strengths. I'm not interested in GarageBand or Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton.
Yeah, that sounds like such an important like realization to have as well. When something is unknowingly becoming a barrier in that process, like it's really important to acknowledge that and just get it out of there.
Yeah, and not everyone is meant to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to do it, all power to you. But it's not me personally.
Yeah. How does that compare with you, Nettie? How does that?
Oh, it's honestly like the exact same for me. Yeah, Ali, like it's really great to hear that, because I feel like technology, I let it be such a barrier for so long. And I just wasn't writing because I was like just getting so frustrated with, you know, my interface wasn't working, and I couldn't figure out what button to press on GarageBand. It was just a nightmare. And I'm the same. Like I'll just pick up my guitar and have my phone and record a voice memo. It might be like for 20 seconds. And sometimes I'll send it to Joe. Like, what do you think of this? And he'll be like, oh, that's cool. Or, oh, that's not cool, or whatever. But sometimes, and then, yeah, I'll write some notes on my phone. And actually, yeah, that's literally the exact same process for me, except for during COVID, I went through a bit of like I don't know, like an internal crisis where I was like, I need to be able to, I've got all these ideas and I need to be able to get them down. And I bought Ableton being like, I'm going to figure this out. And I just couldn't, I just could not figure it out. So I went back to GarageBand, and now I've got some minor capabilities in GarageBand, like very minor, very basic, can hit record, can drag the little thing around to just like pick a different drum beat and drop it in. And I've been kind of using that since COVID, and Billy sort of been subjected to some of my terrible demos. But I don't let that be a barrier anymore. Like I really just start with the song, because I think that it's so easy to get overwhelmed with all of the technology these days. But yeah, again, power to you if you can figure it out, because it is a helpful tool if you don't have access to it, to anything else.
Refreshing to hear that, you know. It's really refreshing to hear that from both of you. We've got a question from the crowd. This is from Jana. Thanks, Jana. When do you get other musicians, producers involved in your writing process, and how much do you do by yourself? I suppose you've kind of gone some way to explain that already, but maybe the question in that question could be like, how do you know when the song is ready for someone like that? Ready for that outside intervention from a producer or someone else in your band even. Ali, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question, because I definitely think that there's a place for collaboration. I used to, when I first started, I kept all my songs really close to me, and I want them to be mine. And then I realized that once I, let people in, things happen faster. And that's why I really enjoy co-writing sessions, because you walk in at the beginning of the day, and at the end of 5 hours, 6 hours, there's a song. And, instead of going through that clunky, oh, I hate myself thing that I do by myself, and then only having a bit of a song and walking away, But I think maybe, I don't know, it depends. I think depends who you're writing with. If you can write with someone who's really great, I would always go in with like a verse and a chorus. If I have a verse and a chorus, I'm like, cool, let's flesh this out. And that's when I would take it to someone. At the moment, I experienced maybe towards the before COVID, I was maybe getting a little bit, I was relying on co-writing. Maybe I was losing a little confidence in myself, and I don't know why, but I'm reflecting a bit. And so I was letting people in too much and diluting myself, because I was like, they know more than me. And really they don't. I just was being lazy and scared. So at the moment I'm working on a bunch of songs, and I'm not showing them to anyone, and I'm going to let them become what they are. So it really depends. I think it's, it depends who you're working with. If you work with someone who can help you and really you gel with. Like, sounds like Nette has someone like that, and I definitely have that. My husband is a songwriter and a producer, and we collaborate really well together. Then that's great. But I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard one. It's very dependent on where you're at.
It's a very like nebulous question as well. It's hard to know. It might be so different for every song as well. You might have the hook of one song and then might need like another song until you're ready.
Yeah.
So how about you, Nette? How does that question resonate with you?
Yeah, that's like, those are some great insights from Ali. I think sometimes you can show someone something too early, and that it can kind of steer you off target. Am I going to delay on my way? But yeah, sometimes you can. Yeah, I think getting outside ears can be really good, but I think as a songwriter, I think when something's really good, and it's like, it's your thing, and you have to obviously be open to like feedback and criticism or not criticism so much, but you get open to feedback and changes and collaboration. But I think it's important to just be able to also stick to your guns sometimes. And it's hard to do because writing a song is so personal. It's such you really feel like you're opening yourself up, and it is hard to stick to your guns sometimes with that. And I think that, I guess, being, kind of new-ish to working collaboratively with people, I've slowly, I guess, garnered the confidence to be like, actually, I want to keep it as it is for this. And that was a hard thing, because I know that, particularly if you're working with a producer that you really respect and admire, you can easily make concessions that you wouldn't necessarily, you listen back and you're like, wow, I kind of wish that I didn't change that. So yeah, I think having people that you trust, and also having people that you feel comfortable to say, like, actually, I'm going to keep it this way is important, and being able to distinguish those people, and also, yeah, just backing yourself to a degree where you're, that you're kind of following your instincts.
Great answer. That's a great answer to that question. That's true. Now we're getting really, really deep into the process talk. So let's do it. This question comes from Lenore. Thanks, Lenore. Do you prefer to start with a melody or chords? And how much do lyrics influence your process? Maybe Nette, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I definitely don't start with lyrics. I'm not. So unfortunately, I wish I did, because sometimes I'll have I always start with chords and a melody. Sometimes a melody in the shower, and then I'll put chords to it. Or sometimes I'm just like playing chords and then put a melody to it, and then it's like working through the gibberish to kind of unpack the lyrics. That's generally my process. Sometimes I'm like, I know I want to write about a particular topic, and so then that will come naturally. But honestly, in most cases, I've had a song ready, and I've had these like placeholder lyrics, and we're like getting ready to go to the studio, and I'm like shit, I need to revisit these lyrics because they're placeholder lyrics. I need to really put some thought into what I'm trying to say here. So yeah, that's my process.
After that. And what about you, Ali? How does that work for you?
Yeah, look, that thing of having a song and then the lyrics aren't ready or whatever is so frustrating, and I've been there many times. And honestly, this is not a test that I take, but this is something that I know works, and through working with lots of other people, and on those days that I have done this myself, if I have an idea for a song or a feeling, and I just write a page of words and then I write the song, it happens easier, because you can like go, cool, there's heaps in there to work with, instead of being like, idea, sit down, and then not let it all come out on a page first, like if I'm explaining that right, and then try and figure it out. It just takes so much longer, and I've done that many times with songs. And that thing about when you sing gibberish, and I do this too, and I think it's placeholder lyrics, and I think that just came out, that can't be it, and it doesn't explain it well enough. 9 times out of 10, they're the damn lyrics. And I go back to them, and that's where they stay. You know, they came out that way for a reason. You tapped into something and it came out, and it's lyrics, you know, like if it, so, and I hate that. Sometimes I'm like, no, I have to sound smarter. I have to write this. I have to explain it better. I have to blah, blah, blah. No, that's it. That's the lyrics, and that's the song. And, that's such a relief to know, but sometimes it takes months to go, okay, I give in. These are the lyrics, you know? I've written it 15 damn times and whatever. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, I do pick up a guitar and let something flow out, but if I truly want to write a song, I know the answer is write heaps of words and then write the song, because it's all there for you. You just have to shoehorn it in together, you know?
Yeah, it does sound like there are those like very two distinct, for both of you, it sounds like there's those two distinct areas in songwriting where it's like the lyrics are actually quite separate from the musicality, I suppose. Do you think that's fair to say? Or I suppose you're folding it all in together anyway, but.
I think it depends. Just like sometimes they really go hand in hand. I don't know if you resonate with this, Ali. Like sometimes you play some chords and you just start singing the song and the lyrics, and you're like, this song is just, it feels like it's writing itself. For me personally, that's far and few between, but I've definitely experienced it that way. I don't ever see like lyrics as being disconnected from a song. I know it can sometimes feel like that in the writing process, but at the end of it, I don't know. I guess I do struggle to see them as, I think they're kind of like a yin yang type of thing in the type of music that I write anyway. If there was no lyrics, it would be a half-baked thing. So
totally fair. This question we've gone somewhere to answer this already, but I'll ask it anyway. How do you go about creating those vocal rhythms in your songs? This question is from Edward. Thanks, Edward. Yeah, how do you go about creating vocal rhythms in your songs? And I suppose, do you start with melody, rhythm, or both, or something like that?
I guess it's a melody rhythm, and then and yeah, I don't know. That is not something I'm consciously thinking of, if I'm completely honest. I'm just singing it and it comes out the way it comes out. I probably write really classic structure, like rhyming structure, you know, like it's not very interesting. It's not super,
You know?
it's like I like punk music and pop music, you know, it's all got to rhyme on the second one.
It's all got to rhyme.
You know? So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think about it.
Oh, that's really important insight too. You know, how about you, Nette? Is it something that you consciously think about, or is it?
Not really. Like, except I guess there's been, generally I'm melody and then rhythm first as well, except for in one song I have written where it's like quite fast paced verses. It's like a da 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 da. When it's, and I've not written many songs like that, but with this one particular song, I remember like locking the rhythm into the groove and then trying to work through the melody to just try to think like, how is this going to sit? But that's kind of a rare case as well. And that particular song started because it wasn't like a natural. I didn't sit down and come up with the chords that time. I was writing it over a riff, and it was quite a busy riff. So I was like, it would be cool to have something kind of bouncing along with this riff. But for the most part, if I'm just sitting down to write a song with my guitar, I'm just singing stuff, and the rhythm just kind of naturally happens as it kind of comes out.
It's really important. I wouldn't have thought that from listening to your songs, you know, but it's, you know, that's like a really interesting insight into the whole process. So thanks. This might be the last question, unless we have like one last sneaky one come through in the interim, but this one's from Spaceman Africa. And Spaceman asks, when you're writing a song on the guitar, do you also think of the other instruments when you're writing, like keys and bass, while you're also writing the song, or is it mainly your one focus at a time? Nettie, do you want to go first?
Sure. Actually, I more and more always have been. I've lately have really been focusing on that. I think I don't necessarily know why. I think because sort of how I was talking about before, trying to find a sound for the band, and just trying to explore new sounds. And I've also been listening to this podcast called Tape Notes. I'm not sure if you guys are into, obviously you're into music because you're here at this event, but I would really recommend Tape Notes. It's about basically they reunite artists and their producer, and they talk through the whole process of creating a body of work. And yeah, so hearing about how they've done, I'm like, wow, I really want to kind of come to the band with some more fully formed demos and ideas of parts. So I've got like a little bass guitar that sometimes I'll throw a few things in, and like come up with some of the guitar parts. We don't always keep them, probably for most part we don't keep those parts, but they kind of help with the vibe of a particular song. Sometimes it will go a completely different direction, and sometimes we'll be like, yep, like let's just keep what was in the demo. But yeah, like lately I've been getting into it, probably because I've had more time because of COVID. So probably, but like before I was really just guitar and vocals, and then left the rest to collaborating.
Okay, so you're taking up these instruments in the process of writing the song to help illustrate the idea maybe a little bit better to the band. Yeah,
definitely, without being too prescriptive of like, this is your part, play this part, because we're you know, kind of an equal parts 4-piece, but I have enjoyed actually, I think, trying some different parts out, and because sometimes now lately I'll like, if Joe, for example, sends through a bass riff, I'll start with that and I'll just try to replicate it on bass and like something, and just kind of put melody to that. And it's almost because I think my guitar playing is quite limited, like I'm really just playing chords, very basic chords, to do something like change to a bass, even if it's the same root notes, I'm like, wow, like there's all these new options, and I feel like I'm like writing songs for the first time. So sometimes it is cool to just kind of mix it up and play with the different instruments and different instrumentation ideas. Not that I can ever get anything particularly complex, but for me it feels new and fresh. So I've been enjoying that lately.
How about you, Ali? What do you prefer to, I guess, like focus on the one instrument at a time, or do you take that more kind of, I suppose, like holistic instrumentation approach? What's your bag?
Well, I definitely agree with Nettie. Like sometimes, like I write on a bass sometimes. If I write on a piano, the songs are completely different. So that's really awesome thing to do. And I love, I think it is different if you're in a band as opposed to being a solo artist. Like more and more, my focus when I write a song is just the guitar and the words and the melody. And I've felt, because I'm not in a band, I've felt overwhelmed by all the other sounds and have had to find myself again in all the sounds. Okay, if I have a recording of a song and there's a really prominent riff that I can't play, then when I go to play solo, the riff is a really big part of the song, and I feel like I can't play it. So more and more when I write a song, the essence of it and what I'm focused on is me and my guitar and my voice. And so anything outside of that is just to support it. So I'm not looking or thinking about anything else, if that makes sense. And my guitar playing is very rudimentary as well. I've figured out how to tune my guitar so that I can play it all the strings, and it always sounds nice. If you want to know, you just tune the G string to an E, and everything sounds like the 90s. And I only play power chords. And I like production. I'm not thinking about anything like that. And I think that's more, the more that I write, the more I'm trying to tell a story. So sonically, it's about my voice and my guitar and the story and the lyrics. I am not a band. I sound like a band on recordings, but that's not what I think about when I write a song.
Okay. And then maybe, I think this might be the last question for the day, but this one's from Edward as well, so thanks, Edward. Do you prefer to collaborate in your writing process, or do you prefer to keep it solo and then bring people in afterwards? We touched on that a little bit at the start, but I think it'd be nice to ask you guys overtly, like, what's your preference at the moment, given that you've tried both?
Depends where I am. At the moment, I'm liking not doing, I will collaborate eventually. Like I will get my song to a certain point and I will always collaborate, because as I said, I'm focused on the singing and the guitar and the words, and I don't know what drum beat. I like to have someone else to help me with that. So I will always collaborate. It's just the point at like what stage I collaborate. And I love writing for other people. Like that is so freeing, because it's got nothing to do with me. It's none of my it's my brand or whatever has nothing to do with it. I can simply be there to be like, tell me what you're thinking. Let's work some words and let's do this. And what about that? What about that? And I can simply be there to facilitate it for somebody else, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I enjoy it all.
What about you, Nettie?
Yeah, actually the same. I'm actually really enjoying kind of writing, just writing on my own a little bit lately, because we've still got half the band. Well, actually at the moment half the band we're in kind of different states. And now that I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with GarageBand, and I like bought a bass, and that's about as far as I've gone. I've got my guitar, I've got my bass, and I've got GarageBand. I'm actually enjoying kind of figuring out other parts, and not to say that I'm not collaborating. I definitely am sending stuff to other like band members and just saying like, what do you think of this? But yeah, I think when you are just working on something like on your own, there is kind of this added focus, I find sometimes, like to follow through an idea or follow through a thought uninterrupted, not like that collaborating is interrupted, but like just to get it to the point where you were going to naturally get to on your own, and then to share that and then to see like other takes and other perspectives on how it goes. And sometimes I have not hugely, but sometimes I do find it like it's almost like jarring sometimes when you hear someone else pick what you've done and put their take on it, and you're like, wow, this is kind of sounding not how I thought it was going to sound. It still sounds awesome, but it's like different. That's nice, but I feel like lately having the songs, it's not like I feel as though it's changed before I've been able to finish the idea. So lately I've enjoyed just doing it kind of on my own, not like completely on my own, but yeah, I've enjoyed that. Obviously I do write with Joe a lot, but a few of the most recent songs that we've done, I've kind of just tried a bunch of the parts, and they've ended up changing a little bit, but the idea was kind of right straight from the demo, and I enjoyed that process.
What a beautiful note to end on. Unless are there any other questions from the crowd? Anyone else would like to ask a quick question? Now's the opportunity. It's okay. No worries, that's all right. we powered through heaps of questions today. Thanks so much, Ali and Nettie, for speaking today.